As you're doing this, make sure that he or she can hear you. In other words, speak up. Speak clearly and articulate your words. With the possible exception of Marlon Brando, for most people, mumbling is a very ineffective form of communication. The truth is, I can almost assure you right now that in your business conversations, you speak too softly and with too little energy. There are many possible reasons for this. Maybe you don't want to come across as an overbearing personality. Maybe speaking in a quiet voice helps you to feel calm. Maybe you think this is a good way to prevent confrontations from developing. All those ideas make perfectly good sense, but are they real choices, or are they just habits you've fallen into? So be aware of this. Your normal voice intonation is probably too soft. That may not matter too much in most situations, but be aware of your tendency, and when you need to, be ready to assertively change it. As an assertive person, you should know how to vary your voice quality to build rapport in different situations. Pay attention to volume, pace, and inflection. Once again, these should be conscious choices, not just habitual behaviors. Pay attention also to what you're saying as well as to how you say it. Grammar and usage of the English language didn't lose its importance when you got out of school. The fact is, the way you talk will determine the way you are perceived. If you use slang expressions that went out of date 30 years ago, you'll be perceived as out of touch with contemporary trends. The ability to express yourself clearly and powerfully isn't just a way of dominating other people. It's a key tool for building rapport in an assertive way. As an extension of this, don't be afraid to stand up for your ideas, even if this causes some disagreement with others. Just be aware of the difference between argument and assertiveness. Differences of opinion are not a bad thing in themselves as long as they don't turn personal. The purpose of assertive disagreement is to find solutions to problems, solutions that both parties can agree on. That kind of win-win scenario builds much better rapport than simply giving in to another person's opinion or than forcing them to agree with yours. When you're called upon to give praise or criticism, it's a good idea to think carefully about what you're going to say and to make your comments as specific as possible. This makes your praise more genuine, and it prevents criticism from sounding like a general indictment of someone's character. For example, it's better to say, "You handled that customer very well by listening to her argument instead of interrupting," rather than saying, "You're quite good with difficult people." The second comment is so general that it doesn't provide specific feedback about what was done well. In the same way, "You missed the deadline for that report," is more effective than, "You're hopeless at managing your time." Again, the second statement is too general and subjective. Hopeless is not a good starting point for developing time management behavior, and it's certainly not a good word for building rapport. Always follow praise or criticism with a word about the reasoning behind your comments. People need to know where you're coming from if you expect them to be motivated to action. For example, after you say, "You missed the deadline for the report," you might want to add, "It's probably because you've been spending more time on telephone sales than we anticipated. Maybe we should discuss how you can allocate your time in the future." In any case, never use positive or negative comments as a way of manipulating people into doing something for you. Don't try something like this: "You're the most hard-working member of the department, and I really appreciate the effort you put in for the meeting this afternoon. Maybe you could just write up the minutes for me." Whether they let on or not, employees instantly see through that kind of tactic. It undercuts everything you've already said, and it makes whatever you might say in the future much more difficult to believe. As long as we're on the topic of how to build rapport through what you say about others, we should certainly look at the importance of what you say about yourself. Assertive people know how to speak well of themselves without seeming to brag, and there are many effective tactics for doing this. A great way to compliment yourself, for example, is by complimenting others first. If someone tells you he went to the University of Michigan and you say, "Wow, that's a great school," he's probably going to ask you where you went, and then you get to say Harvard or Slippery Rock or whatever the case may be. So a rapport-building objective has been achieved. You've made someone else feel good, and you've gotten to feel good in return. When you're speaking about your own accomplishments, discipline yourself to stick to the facts. Resist the temptation to embellish or dramatize everything you say. Instead of telling a long story about how you single-handedly slew the giant dragon, emphasize the hard work and effort that others put into achieving the goal. If in fact you are the one who closed the big deal, you'll be recognized for your accomplishment even if you give credit to others. The point is to avoid hogging all the glory. We all know that there are true geniuses in this world, and perhaps you're one of them. These are people who do things with ease that amaze most mortals. But there's also genius in knowing how to bring off these stunning accomplishments without having other people hold it against you, and no one will hold it against you unless you're tactless and undiplomatic about your achievements. Never make your success sound like it was just a walk in the park. You don't have to tell people it was the hardest thing in the world, but never make things sound too easy, or people will resent you for thinking you're better than everyone else. Make it sound like they could have accomplished the same thing as you. This will reassure them of their abilities, and they won't feel threatened by you. Internally, perhaps, they'll admit to themselves that they would not have been able to succeed as you did, but as long as only they know this fact, they'll be saving face. Remember, you may really be more capable than everyone else. In fact, you can even know that you're more capable. Just don't say so out loud, and your capabilities will help you build rapport instead of undermine it.